sand eats the people on the beach after they, flash their.
Well, it looks like here Paul Anka is 74 years of age. He's still alive. I don't know if his brother Andy is or not. He had a younger brother, Andy Anka, whom I knew years ago. He was a songwriter, and as a matter of fact, he wrote a couple of songs that my wife sang.
Wow, that's impressive. But then, did they make the local hit parade?
One of the songs that she sang, not written by Andy Anka, but someone else, that one actually got some airplay around the country, but we couldn't generate sales from that. And since we were talking about David Bowie, here's the David Bowie connection. We have, of course, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And the 2 degrees of David Bowie are the fact that one of the keyboard synthesizer developers that he worked with in Let's Dance, a guy named Rob Sabino, who played with Chic and with Madonna, he produced a couple of sessions for my wife, Rob Sabino.
Well, I can tell you this. It's about all I can say about David Bowie, although I liked his music from the beginning. And, he had space themes pretty much throughout, although his brand new album that came out just a few days ago obviously was in anticipation of death, as the IRS likes to put it. And I think that Bowie, the response around the world is the largest I've seen since John Lennon was assassinated, and for a musician. And that is quite something. I mean, I would not have expected that. He was certainly, a major musical influence, but nevertheless, he, to get that level of response shows something about the public mind, and you can only respect that kind of outpouring that has happened worldwide.
I was kind of lucky. My son Grayson and I saw one of his last concerts in Phoenix, Arizona, way back in the early 2000s. He suffered a heart attack a few months later and stopped touring forever.
Yeah, well, he was a cokehead, so that's not real surprising. I've been drug-free, so perhaps I will avoid that sort of thing. Anyway, let's go to something that we know something about, and I have a question for you.
Well, before I answer your question, before you ask it, you asked me to speak about things that we ask, to question you about what you did last night.
Well, I didn't prompt you, but we'll go for that. Okay, last night, this guy has been trying to get me to go on his podcast for a long time, and we just could not come up with a date. I'm often like the substitute when the aliens abduct the primary guests, so I've probably done that more times on more programs than I care to mention or think about, since it implies something or other that probably doesn't lead to fame. But last night he said that he was going to do not just the podcast, but do a live projection scenario from a comedy club in San Francisco, and he wanted me to invoke a demon live for the audience. And the last time I did anything like that was for a radio program in Portland, and I did it reluctantly, but it blew up a huge storm, which the host of the show, who is sort of a conspiracy buff, we'll put it that way, so I get invited back, and something happens whenever I'm on his program. He kind of blamed me, and since some people were killed in the storm, I would like to think that it was destined to be an out-of-season tornado, even though there's no climate change. But by doing the ritual that I did, invoking the great angel Metatron, I reduced it from a tornado to just a heavy wind, and thus spared many of my great friends up there in Portlandia. But anyway, so I mentioned that before I did the very same ritual for the people gathered in the comedy club. And of course, I hammed it up considering the venue. I mean, I wasn't going to be dry, but I did it. They had me projected on a screen, so I had on my Episcopal drag, as I like to call it. Plus, my son Randall has this hat with a tassel on top that I think his girlfriend knitted for him. So I put that on too, because I don't have any headpiece or headgear for the stuff that I do. And it looked appropriately silly, but I did the full invocation, and I got very serious when I did. And it was reported to me by the gentleman who invited me on the program. Wow, the audience felt exhilarated afterwards, and it was a great thing. So the notion of doing magical ritual effectively at a distance, cross-country, 3,000 miles away, seems to be, once again, proven to be the case.
You know, I have to ask you 1,000 questions based on what you just said, but we have to do a break. But first, let me remind our listeners, we do have that second radio show called After the Paracast. It's part of something we call the Paracast Plus. Go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. In fact, even the dogs like it. You hear the dogs in the background in the neighborhood. They love After the Paracast, some of our biggest fans. But seriously speaking, we offer it for a low month-to-month, annual, 5-year annual subscription rate. The ad-free version of this show, After the Paracast, videos, show transcripts, lots more. We've got Alan Greenfield joining us. Chris O'Brien is on special assignment. You're in
the Paracast.
I know that a lot of our listeners are interested in UFOs, the issue of giant skeletons found in America, paranormal investigations, and what the top researchers think about such topics. One online magazine has been presenting such unusual information since 1985. It is Alternate Perceptions Magazine at apmagazine.info. Use their search function to find articles on just about every topic imaginable. That's apmagazine.info. So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
My name is Don Wiskin, and at 42 years old, I suffered a massive heart attack and was told I'd be on disability for the rest of my life. What did I do? I created Extendivite, a garlic and cayenne mix of 7 herbs which rebuilt my heart and gave me back my life. For over 17 years now, I have made this formula available to you so you don't have to suffer the same thing I did. Clean your blocked arteries and strengthen your heart and boost your natural immune system. I'm 60 years old now, and I still work every day. To get your Extendivite, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Alan Greenfield is someone I've known for many, many decades. In fact, there has to be a story somewhere along the line about how we first met, but I can't remember it. I just think we started writing letters to one another.
Well, it started with you writing me a letter accusing me of anti-Semitism since I was in the process of packing for my trip to Israel. I thought was a little odd, but I remember that it was like from a secondhand comment or something. And then we corresponded. And then, of course, all through the 1960s, you and I got together mostly on around New Year's Eve in Times Square. I would always come up to the New York Hilton in those days, and we would get together, a number of us. One time it went on so long, I think it was 72 hours nonstop. Everybody else had left. Dave Halpern, who I just saw at the National UFO Conference reunion about 6 months ago, and he's living down here in the South, actually. Anyway, apparently it was so alarming, your father showed up to make sure I hadn't tied you up or whatever it was. And since you were a bodybuilder at the time, I think that probably it would have been more the other way around. But your dad showed up, and we were fine, but we were both, on the edge of sleep. And I remember that I woke up in the middle of a sentence and I was saying, "And did you know Columbus was Jewish?" To this day, I have no idea what the first part of that sentence was.
I'd like to know what kind of vivid dream you were having at the time. But this was one of the sessions there, one of these all-night gab fests. Nobody present at this particular point of time. You and I talking. You've got a copy of The Incomplete Enchanter, the first of a series of books by L. Sprague de Camp and Fletcher Pratt about somebody who was able to go into another reality where the laws of magic take force. And, of course, that's formed the basis of fantasy novels and occasional things on TV over the years, going into other realities. But from that, we fabricated a whole scenario where UFOs, instead of being spaceships, were really close to us in another reality. Can you bring the memories back to our listeners?
Oh, yeah. I still have that copy, the 35-cent paperback of DeCamp and Pratt's The Incomplete Enchanter. There's since been two revised editions of the Harold Shea series, The Complete Enchanter, and then there's one more recent that I haven't seen that is even more complete, I suppose. These are COMPLEAT, like The Complete Rite of Memphis. I don't know that anybody knows the complete COMPLETE Rite of Memphis, because I think there are 360 degrees and we only have 97 of them available to us, but all 97 of the available ones, plus a few extra and how to explore further, are in the book. But anyway, yes, I think that book had an enormous influence on me in the early 1960s. And as time went on, I think that we all started out with either these are extraterrestrial craft, and in those days we could still speculate easily that maybe from Mars. That's become sort of more difficult now, although people keep seeing funny stuff on Mars.
Well, of course, we have a character now on the new Supergirl TV show called Martian Manhunter, an old DC Comics character.
Yes, well, the comics character is familiar to me. I tend to avoid superhero stuff. I take the line from the late, great Gil Scott-Heron, there ain't no such thing as a Superman. I guess I've always been a fan of science fiction, but plausibility has to be in there, and I'm sort of avoid all the superhero stuff. So I'm out of touch with the times, but I think more in touch with the actual reality, even though your little logo says you are a Superman. And indeed you are, because you have continued to do important work through all these years, as I would like to think, have I. And it is, gosh, it's 50 years, you know?
It's more than that, my friend.
Well, I'm trying to calculate, but let's see, 1962, 63, somewhere in there. I know that I met Timothy Green Beckley first.
Well, 53 years. Let's do that. You're counting 53 years from 1962
okay,
to
let me do the echo
2015,
effect.
actually 54 years now.
More than half a century. Yes.
I think our listeners are wondering where he's going with that.
Yes. Well, I'm going on into this century, and we'll see how far we can take it. I want to be on Mars, so I'm sort of a little out of sync with the times, because were I 10 years younger, that might be a possibility. But, you know, Mars needs women, and let's face it, there aren't any there that I know of. So,
well, maybe there's a female Martian Manhunter.
To go back...
Let's go back to the theory, though. Let's be serious and let's be straight here and keep the answers relatively short. And that is, okay, so we have this theory here about UFOs from alternate realities, but let's back up a little bit. Why posit that they're not spaceships and that they are from a neighboring reality that we just cross over to?
Because they don't fit the profile of what one would expect even from an advanced civilization from another planet. For one thing, if you delve deeply enough into it, they seem to be a part of the history of the Earth going back as far as you care to go. I detest things like the ancient astronaut, just the term, it makes me cringe. But the fact is that things that could be classified as UFOs or flying saucers, including landing and abduction cases, stated in terms of the cultural milieu of the times, go all the way back to cave paintings. And that doesn't mean they don't go back further than that, but it does mean that at least as long as human beings have in any way expressed themselves, this has been a part of our reality. Hardly something that would be the equivalent of the conquistadors coming to the New World, which we may be grateful for. The other aspect of it is that there is a kind of a peekaboo effect that goes on in cases. You don't land from another planet, and I think John Keel was the first one to point this out, maybe at one of our New Year's events, because the late, great Jim Moseley used to drag Keel along in the days, in the run-up to his giant saucer show at the late Commodore Hotel, which Donald Trump tore down, built something else. But hey,
Okay, so before we start with that, Donald Trump is at fault. Everything that's going to happen now, anything that happened in New York City, it is Donald Trump's fault. If he's elected president, it's really his fault.
If he's elected president, which may very well happen, I think we are in very, very serious trouble. However,
we will have a serious problem if we don't do our break right now. We have Alan Greenfield, an old friend of mine. We're reminiscing, but taking this to the UFO paranormal area very closely, and we'll get into more of that in a moment with alternate realities. Chris O'Brien's on special assignment. I'm Gene Steinberg. He's Alan Greenfield. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
If you're like me, you're concerned about the stock market and the economy. You're asking the questions, but it just doesn't seem that you're getting the right answers. Well, my friends at the Wealth Preservation Institute not only have the answers, but they've put together a free report, How to Survive the Upcoming Economic Collapse and Protect Your 401ks, IRA savings, and retirement income. Don't hesitate. This report's for free for a limited time by calling 888-772-2929. That's 888-772-2929. Take back your financial lives today.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't pick on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich? Working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare? Having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom106.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom, the number 106.com. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom106.com.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Hey, this is Marie D. Jones, the author of This Book is from the Future, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Chris O'Brien's on special assignment. He'll be with us when we do this weekend's episode of After the Paracast, part of the Paracast Plus special package. Go to plus.theparacast.com to learn more. We have Alan Greenfield, and we're going into the genesis of the alternate reality theory, and we're talking about UFOs that seem to wink in and wink out and don't seem to behave in the way you feel they behave if they were ET.
That's correct. I think also the behavior is something that you should focus on. They seem to, as I put it, play peekaboo. They wear masks and don't behave in a manner that would be consistent with extraterrestrial explorers.
Well, why do you say that? We don't know what extraterrestrial explorers would be like. We're just guessing.
They don't say, fix me a pancake. That would be just, that's more fairy-like than ufonaut-like. Now, of course, you could always argue that, but they appear and disappear. Yes, you might have technology that does that. Yes, a truly advanced technology would be indistinguishable from magic. But why hang out here, winking in and out, resembling fairyland, taking people to places that time works differently and that seem to resemble earlier cases such as the Venusberg legends in Europe, where someone is taken into a fairy hill or an elf hill and is there for a night and a day and emerges 100 years later. Same kind of lore in a different context. We've interviewed people together that are like that. Ralph Lale, I kind of hope you still have that interview somewhere buried, but his experience sounds like a homespun legend, but he did not strike me as the sort of person who had extreme literacy in European folklore, and yet his story is right out of European folklore and resembles those instances many years ago that are more of the Rip Van Winkle variety than of the Day the Earth Stood Still variety.
Ralph Lale, it was a character that we met at the foot of Brown Mountain, had this little, trinket shop?
Outer Space Rock Shop Museum.
Right. Okay.
What I look for in outrageous cases like his, because he claimed to have been taken into Brown Mountain and then off to another planet where he had interesting adventures, and I believe it was the planet Piwam, and then returned to Earth. He showed some relics of his trips, but what I look for when you have a case like that, or John Reeves, or the two fishermen in, as they were called, in Pascagoula, Mississippi, the two fishermen who were actually shipbuilders at that time. So I don't know why they always refer to as fishermen. Or the John Reeves case in Brooksville, Florida, is if the story is outlandish, but the person seems absolutely sincere, true in all those cases, are there supporting cases in the surrounding countryside? And I interviewed other people on a couple of occasions around Brown Mountain and in those two other cases, and there are indeed other close encounter cases in the area. Not contact cases, but close encounters with flying saucers that are unmistakably that, as opposed to lights in the sky. And that tends to add credence to the primary case. And in all of those instances, I think that something very strange occurred. Why there should be particular areas that are visited by whatever is much more easily explained, since they have no particular reference to outer space and are all only seen near the Earth. Why they would have an attraction to those places doesn't correspond to any understanding that I have of prolonged visits from another planet, but it does correspond to the notion of portals from other realities. And when I first started saying that in the 1960s with my Alternate Horizons newsletter and other things of that time, I didn't have any good theoretical basis to speak about that. And I was never comfortable with the term alternate dimensions or other dimensions, because what does that really mean? But since then, I've become aware of the multiple worlds solution of quantum theory, and it it dovetails with that a lot, because not only are there apparently many other worlds, there are two interpretations. One is a specific number of other brains, BRANES, or another one is that there are an infinite number of other brains. They are so closely aligned that they literally are sitting there in the room with you and with me. And perhaps that explains not just UFOs, but also psychic phenomena, ghosts, apparitions, all kinds of things that monsters, all sorts of things that are seen and then disappear, only to be seen again. And when you find a universal theory that things fit into, multiple things fit into, it strengthens the theoretical underpinning, because if that, in fact, is the way the universe, or better, omniverse, is in existence, it follows that there will be times and places where there is sort of an overlap or a merger, whether intentional or otherwise. And, of course, there is the fact that 10 years after I got into ufology, although my interests went back to the same period, I began to be involved in ceremonial magic, and a lot of that is portal working, the idea of opening portals to angelic or demonic otherwares, which the latter I don't encourage anybody to do. But nevertheless, I've done reasonably scientific experiments with that. That is, under controlled circumstances, and something very weird happens that is suggestive of deliberately opening and closing a portal to elsewhere.
Before we go on, Alan, I really want you to explain that. But let me throw out one more thing before you do that, and probably this will carry over to our next segment. And that is, when we talk about alternate realities, we sometimes think of mirrors of our own world, like an Earth 2, like in the TV series Fringe. We had an alternate reality where it was the same people, but they were a little bit different, and the civilization was a little bit different. As a matter of fact, in the TV show based on the comic book Flash, they have like an Earth 2. There's another Flash there. There are counterparts to characters in this reality. So we've got a minute before we do our break, so we can start this and pick it up on our next segment. We're talking here of another reality being a totally different place. But is there possibly a semi-duplicate of Earth in another reality, a parallel Earth?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one version of the multiple worlds theory is that we are constantly making decisions which split off different realities. Do this or do that. Open the door or don't open the door. Well, in one reality we open the door, in the other reality we don't. And then an enormous number of variations. The peculiarity of that is, because it's an easy thing to say or to describe in fictional terms, is there are objective scientific tests on a micro scale, and the only argument is this applicable to the macro world as well as the micro world?
Let's explain that in our next segment, because this warrants more than 10 seconds. Chris O'Brien's on special assignment. We have Alan Greenfield. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Conspiracy Journal is your #1 source for the hidden world of the weird and strange. We bring you thought-provoking and controversial material for free-thinking individuals who are seeking what is really going on in our world today. Some of this material may adversely affect you. Other pieces are meant to enlighten. Either way, be prepared to be intrigued by such things as the reality of UFOs, ghosts, strange creatures from time and space, hidden conspiracies, time travel, Nikola Tesla, suppressed technology, and a whole lot more. You can find out more by visiting our website at conspiracyjournal.com. There you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter sent directly to your email address. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks, all on the nation's best 4G LTE network? Introducing Pix Wireless. Bring your phone and other qualifying devices to Pix and choose a plan starting at only $14 a month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-267-2056 or pixwireless.com. Spelled P-I-X, wireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise at gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, the Mineral Doctor. You've heard me talk about 90 for Life for years. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 fatty acids. You may not know this, that I've actually designed Arthrodex for animals. That's right. Your pets need 90 for Life too. Get this essential pet product by calling 877-279-9422. That's 877-279-9422. Again, 877-279-9422.
Ted Anderson telling you about Jordan Rubin's Beyond Organic Green-Fed Raw Cheddar Artesian Cheese featuring whole milk created through ancient dairy breeding, unpasteurized, untreated whole milk on the same farm the cows graze, containing natural sources of omega-3s, CLA protein, calcium, probiotics, and enzymes. I have never tasted cheese this good, and you need to try it. Contact your Longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
Rainier Distillers designs and builds custom copper stills for home purification of water, distilling alcohol, essential oils, cannabis oil, and ethanol fuel. Use these distillers at home to remove all those nasty chemicals that are added to your public drinking water by fluoridation, resulting in pure, safe drinking water for you and your family. Call RainierDistillers.com at 360-446-8998 and check out their website at RainierDistillers.com, located in Seattle, Washington.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Alan Greenfield's joining us, and we're going to talk about how he invokes these various spells in a little while, but now he's trying to frame the structure and how this alternate reality stuff works. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, let me see if I can describe it. Because there's no one way that alternate realities manifest, and there's no one agreed to scientific theory. In one theory, there are, and it's based on a mathematical proposition of quantum mechanics, there are a limited number of other brains, so to speak. That being the case, whatever other realities they are, although they may follow entirely different rules of physics and be completely different from who we are and what we are. Nevertheless, there aren't an infinite number of them, and there certainly are unlikely to be other us's there or similar things. I'm kind of fond of the little movie Another Earth, which depicts the notion of an Earth duplicate showing up, not necessarily from another reality, but of course it defies our laws of physics. So I suppose if you tried to do physics underpinning of that, it would be almost necessary to look at it in that way. Another version of the same theory is that there are an infinite number of alternate realities. And because there are an infinite number, not only do they not necessarily follow the same rules of physics, they don't follow the same rules of anything. That is, they are entirely, infinite means infinite, which means anything that you can conceive of and anything that you can't conceive of does exist in some reality, by definition. Now, do any of these realities resemble ours? They would have to. They're infinite. Do any of these realities come into being based on decisions that we make or other we's make?
As I hear what Alan says, I start to think there are multiple Gene Steinbergs, multiple Alan Greenfields, multiple Chris O'Briens, and maybe Jim Moseley, our late great friend, is still alive.
I mean, these things boggle the mind. They're really very hard to articulate in words. They're truly articulable, if that's a word, only mathematically. Although
that's a word in another reality.
Well, that doesn't matter because we're dealing in multiple realities here. But the point is that we are essentially talking about the prospect that what we're dealing with Mothman or the Loch Ness Monster or UFOs or abductions or certain kinds of ghostly appearances and doppelgangers and a whole host of other things, including fairy legends, elves, whatever that we consider to be fiction, by definition must be a fact in some realities. And if there are indeed crossovers from these other realities to our own, then when they manifest, they appear perfectly real. But they are, in fact, so far as we're concerned, temporary and following none of the rules of physics as we understand them. Are they bound by the rules of physics as we understand them when they are in our reality? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. But I would say that the likelihood is that they are totally, it's totally open as to whether these things can be pinned down. I think, however, that there are reasons to suspect that some of these incursions, if you will, and I don't mean that in any sinister way or not, are intentional. If I can do portal magic and enter or send, which is more likely send someone into another reality, there's no reason to think that there aren't realities in which far more accomplished, quote, magicians, by our understanding, are able to mechanically or through magical processes or scientific processes as defined in those realities. Again, the laws of physics don't necessarily apply, or they may apply but are slightly different, very different, or so different we really couldn't even imagine them literally. There's no way to wrap our minds around them. Come into our reality for whatever reasons seem applicable to them. And we try to puzzle them out in terms of our understanding of things. And that's where we get hung up on trying to, so to speak, ground these things in the understandable. But anytime in any area of science that you get out to the maximum extremes, there's a point at which, as some scientists have said, that not only do we not understand, but that we're incapable of understanding. After all, in terms of biological time, to say nothing of geological time, to say absolutely nothing of cosmic time, we just dropped out of the trees a week ago, I mean, and you could say more accurately a moment ago. And what we are basically equipped to do is to reproduce, to hunt, and to avoid being hunted. Everything else that we do is a microsecond in biological time. And again, to say nothing of geological or cosmological time.
Okay, so the rest of the stuff that we're doing now, like doing radio shows, that's all optional.
Well, that depends on what you mean. For us, I don't think it's optional. I think it's perfectly appropriate, and it's an excellent way of communicating. However, the premise behind the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, is that intelligent civilizations would also use radio, and that, would depend on a lot of things that I think are, shall we say, much more debatable.
Okay, but that doesn't mean there are no other worlds with intelligent life and advanced civilizations.
Absolutely not. But when I was a lot younger, there was a prominent theory, I think it was called Drake's equation, that there would be intelligent life on X number of worlds, and it was a one with many zeros behind it. However, we have come a long way in the last 10 years, and much of let's make it 15 years, 20 years if you want to go on the outside, certainly since the Hubble, that we have learned a great deal more about the universe that we can see, that we can contemplate. And the Drake equation has many problems with it. For one thing, you have to probably eliminate anything that would remotely be life as we know it near the center of galaxies for a lot of reasons. There's a black hole in the center of every galaxy, apparently. And the radiation, as you go inward, becomes greater and greater, and the possibility of any kind of organic life becomes less and less viable. We're on the edge of a galaxy, and in a little zone that also includes the planetary accident, if you want to think of it as an accident, of being in the so-called Goldilocks zone within our solar system. And even there, to some extent, Mars is within that Goldilocks zone too. And obviously it had some of the preconditions for life, but whether there's any life on Mars or ever has been is still an open question. Certainly the ingredients are there. So if there's none, it's extremely significant in terms of the rest of the universe. It's also true that there is a question as to whether there has been enough time since the Big Bang.
Let's consider that in a moment. We've got lots more to say today. Chris O'Brien's on another assignment, but not in another reality. So you're hearing from Gene Steinberg and Alan Greenfield. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best. Available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Now, we're seeing here an example of Alan Greenfield's supreme mystical powers when he says the Paracast, right?
I try to project as well as I possibly can that which is.
So we're talking here about UFOs not necessarily coming from other planets, but from other realities, and also the possible rarity with which life begins and flourishes in the universe. Of course, we talk also about the possible discovery of Goldilocks planets, which just seem to be in the precise area and of a size and configuration that they might be able to spawn life. And then we have other theories here, like the theory of Mars, about all the crazy things that happen on Mars. And maybe at one time in the past, Mars had some sort of intelligent life.
Well, the panspermia theory is that life elsewhere got life here started. However, and indeed there have been fragments of planetary collisions that have been found on Earth that seem to originate on Mars. I mean, we know a lot about Mars now because we actually have probes on the surface of Mars. And in the 1990s, a meteorite was found in Antarctica that seemed to have originated on Mars and seemed to have organic molecules in it. And there was a debate as to whether those organic molecules had sort of leached in from an earthly source or were a contaminant or something. But there's a good indication that they came here from Mars. And that's, since we now actually, and in fact, what was it, in the 1970s, since the 1970s, have been capable of sending probes and landing them on Mars, it's fairly easy to taking a look at the solar system. There's been so much asteroid and meteor activity that it would be very surprising if there was not some substance from a neighboring and somewhat similar planet that sometimes approaches Earth relatively closely, as these things are reckoned closer than anything else other than the moon.
So the long and short of it is, we are the Martians?
That's a very distinct possibility. Now, there may not have been Martians. There may have simply been organic molecules or unicellular life at one time. Something big came and collided with Mars. We know that because Mars's atmosphere being less dense than ours, at least now, we can see the craters. There are plenty of craters on Earth as well, but because we have an atmosphere and topsoil and all kinds of erosion, the craters on the moon, where there is no air, are much more obvious than the craters on Earth. Nevertheless, those collisions have sent things everywhere. We saw an asteroid break up into three pieces and go into the planet Jupiter, causing, even though it's of enormous size and limited density, nevertheless, it had a terrific effect on Jupiter, although it was, not huge in terms of the size of Jupiter. Point being that the notion that life on Earth may have begun earlier than it might have because organic molecules or the remnants of a Martian civilization, whatever, came to Earth long ago and began life here a lot sooner than we would otherwise expect it. However, I did want to make the point about life elsewhere in the universe that given, they used to say, and it was really one of those arguments that people who are disinclined to believe any kind of supernatural forces in the universe would make. They said the Bob Newhart routine, an infinite number of monkeys and an infinite number of typewriters would eventually type all the great books, to be or not to be. That is the Gazornenplatte. I say that we don't have an infinite amount of time. We know now the approximate age of our universe as currently defined, and it isn't an infinite amount of time. And there's a lot of space out there, although it's not empty space as we thought for many decades between the mythos of the ether of space and the current mythos of dark matter and dark energy, both of which were and are approximations to just simply say space is not empty. What it contains, we don't know, but we can see the effects of it in terms of the distribution of the universe and the speed at which it moves. It would not be explainable in any other terms. There is something, perhaps the word thing is inadequate, some force, if you will, that we can't see or touch or feel or measure exactly, that nevertheless exerts a lot of energy on the universe. The point is, we know a great deal about the universe, and given the amount of time since the Big Bang, the notion that life, intelligent life, would have evolved anywhere is subject to question. So how did we happen? Well, if you want to stay within non-creationist theories, that is, orthodox scientific theories, you'd have to say we were damn lucky. We were very fortunate, assuming that you think that being alive is a good thing. To be alive and conscious at this point may be an exceedingly rare thing in the entire universe. It may be very premature, in fact. It may be that we came very, very early in the long history that the universe is likely to have, the end of which is strongly debated. Will it collapse on itself? Will it expand into infinity and eventually sort of tear apart just because there's not enough material to and energy to sustain it? You can argue it either way, or for a long time there was the notion that things were what they called steady state, and that apparently is completely out of the question now as far as scientists are concerned. The nature of the universe is such that probably if one were to have some kind of expectation that intelligent life would evolve simply based on contemplation of it, which is an interesting thing because, after all, we are conscious beings and we are the ones who are contemplating it. So ipso facto, we're here. We think, therefore we are. But we could be an anomaly, in which case we may be, and for the first time in the last 10, 15 years, some scientists have begun to completely question the Drake equations and not only say that life in the universe is rare, but we may be the only exception, or one of very few, and that would mean others would be scattered in the unbelievable distances among galaxies that are distributed all across the universe.
So the theory goes that the amount of life that spawns in the universe is not very high, so therefore the chances that an intelligent civilization would arise are very low, And it's even lower the possibility that civilization would be advanced enough to communicate with another.
I think that there is a great plausibility to that, whereas when I first got started with this stuff, continental drift was still denied at that point by orthodox science. I mean, that was taught as nonsense when I was in school, but, in high school anyway.
So therefore, we have a situation here where if certain people are elected president of the United States, we will magically return to another reality, the reality of the 1950s. Can you dig it? Chris O'Brien's on special assignment, but he will be with us on the next episode of After the Paracast. He'll tell us all what he's up to. And I've got some news that is tentative, but we hope it's final. And that is we have scheduled Whitley Strieber to join us on the Paracast the second week of February. In the meantime, we've got my old friend Alan Greenfield here to join us with lots of fascinating talk. You're in
the Paracast.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Did you know that drinking pure, high-alkaline water is one of the most important factors in maintaining high energy and vibrant health? Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops, available only at alkavision.com, combine a unique formula of only the most alkaline minerals. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops alkalize your water, ridding the body of harmful toxins, and helps you regain health and energy. Alkalizing your water by simply adding 10 drops of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops helps the body rid itself of acidic waste, increases oxygen content, and raises the pH of your body to healthy levels. And bacteria and viruses cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops for only $29.95 at alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com today.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Removing bad taste and odor from your drinking water is easy. Removing the bad stuff you don't taste is what ProPure does best. Water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure countertop, inline, gravity, and household water filtration products. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com or call 800-544-3533.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
So we're talking here on the Paracast about the possibility that instead of coming from other planets, UFOs, assuming they are real, come from alternate realities. And we're talking to my old friend Alan Greenfield. Chris O'Brien is on special assignment. So, Alan, what about the scientific community? How many scientists out there are talking not the possibility of life in outer space, but life in alternate realities?
Well, in quantum physics, most of them. There is a disconnect between the quantum physicists, who nobody denies at this point, or almost no one denies, are the orthodox notion of the nature of reality. Let's say biology and biological sciences, which has not had the kind of revolution that you have in physics. I think that is coming. And in my opinion, not only is it coming, but that it's going to be a paradigm shift of major proportions, comparable to that which occurred with Newton and with Einstein. And when it occurs, that is, when what the quantum physicists have known since the 1920s filters out into, let's say, a high school biology class, we're going to look at reality in an entirely different way. But in the meantime, there's this disconnect between the theoretical physicists who nobody else is going to say that they're not correct, but integrating that with bioscience or technology or whatever, there are very few meeting points. And even where there are, they seem to be oblivious to the implications of it. We have quantum processes going on inside of our own brains right now. And there is a lot of talk in the technology sector about quantum computing. But the reason that quantum computing is so unimaginably fast has direct implications for the theoretical structures that I'm mentioning. And yet people that work with quantum computing are only interested in the speed. They're not interested in the implications. I understand practical science. It's a good thing. But I wish there was more integration between theory and practice. But what I'm saying, it's very important, Gene, to realize that what I'm saying is absolutely within the orthodox fold. There are conservative scientists who would be horrified by it, but very few people who actually understand quantum physics, who are not in touch with it and disturbed by it, because the implications are staggering. My feeling is that because this is the case, whether it's generally realized or not, in the little corner of the universe that we work in with strange phenomena and high weirdness and whatever you want to call it, the reason there has been or one of the main reasons there has been so little progress from the earliest investigative groups to the present is because most of them have stuck to the line that either we're dealing with extraterrestrial visitations. That term jumps out of the television sets every day. All you have to do is turn on the History Channel or even the Smithsonian Channel, and it's always extraterrestrials. The guy with the big hair that looks like an antenna. Extraterrestrials. It's possible that ancient aliens, blah, 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 blah. Aliens meaning extraterrestrials. It's possible that extraterrestrial. All of that has gone nowhere. It establishes nothing, and it's never anything that you can wrap yourself around and say, well, here's the evidence for it. So the other alternative in this false dichotomy is that these are all explainable in terms of natural phenomena. I think not, and I think not because there's too much of it and it's too prevalent throughout human history and as far back as people doing rather sophisticated artwork on the walls of caves. So I think that the probability is we are dealing with something, quote, real, unquote. And if it's not within that false dichotomy of spaceships or natural phenomena, perhaps it would do well for ufologists, for example, and perhaps even parapsychologists to stop looking for these, they used to call telepathy mental radio. Has nothing to do with radio or radio waves or anything like that. Ufologists have been looking to the stars and looking for ways for there to be emergent ways to get around the speed of light paradox for distant alien visitations and start looking in another direction. I think the confluence of paranormal research, magic or occultism, ufology, and the hunt for critters, cryptozoology, need to look in the direction that I am proposing. And if they do, I think you will find a rich reward. And let me say one thing about it that was something that I wish you had been at, but I don't know, what the circumstances were. But last summer we had a reunion of many of the people who go back to the very, very beginning of the Congress of Scientific Ufologists come National UFO Conference. And to a person, those who were there, unless I misread them badly, to a person, they all had moved away from the ETH and towards some version of an alternate reality theory. And I think that says something, that the old hands, the people that have been around for a very long time, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, even the name of your program suggests it. I believe you also fall into that category. Those of us who have been around for a long time, it's not like we can declare ex cathedra that there is no such thing as an extraterrestrial or that they cannot or might not visit the Earth. Even Carl Sagan, arch skeptic of such things, said at one time that there might be a visitation maybe once in thousands of years, and he cited an example from ancient Mesopotamian civilization, which I also find has some credibility. But this notion of ongoing everyday encounters, and all you have to do is do what I do with for my preparation for my blog when my computer is working. And you will find UFO sightings somewhere in the world every day of the week, 365 days a year, every year, since who knows when.
So Alan has wondered, by dint of the use of the name the Paracast for the show, whether I've left the extraterrestrial theory behind and I embrace something much wider. And that's worth the further answer. We'll continue that in our next segment. Next week, we'll have our episode featuring Dr. Kirby's surprise about synchronicity. And don't take this to the bank yet, folks, but we have a tentative arrangement to feature Whitley Strieber and his newest book on the Paracast in early February. Okay? A lot more to come on the show with Alan Greenfield and Gene Steinberg, Chris O'Brien on special assignment. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
My dad was 59 when he collapsed from a heart attack late last year. Just this past August was when we spread his ashes on the St. Croix River. I loved my dad, But boy was he stubborn. He hadn't been to the doctor in over 25 years. His excuse? He simply couldn't afford it. He wasn't a rich man by any means. At less than $107 per month, libertyoncall.org would have been the perfect alternative for my father. Don't wait. Go to libertyoncall.org right now, for not just your sake, but for the sake of your loved ones. Again, that's libertyoncall.org.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks, all on the nation's best 4G LTE network? Introducing Pix Wireless. Bring your phone and other qualifying devices to Pix and choose a plan starting at only $14 a month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-267-2056 or pixwireless.com. Spelled P-I-X, wireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
You haven't experienced yogurt until you've tried a Mossy, embodying health and flavor in a true whole milk, green-fed dairy beverage. Every sip pays homage to our old world cows and the ancient culturing methods their milk benefits from. With over 30 probiotics, a Mossy's undeniably nutritious, refined, cultured sensation bolsters your health and awakens your passion for dairy. A Mossy's so good, and you need to try it. Contact your Longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
Ted Anderson telling you about Jordan Rubin's Beyond Organic Green-Fed Raw Cheddar Artesian Cheese featuring whole milk created through ancient dairy breeding, unpasteurized, untreated whole milk on the same farm the cows graze, containing natural sources of omega-3s, CLA protein, calcium, probiotics, and enzymes. I have never tasted cheese this good, and you need to try it. Contact your Longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Hi, it's Grant Cameron from presidentialufo.com. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So our discussion is proceeding with Alan Greenfield, my old friend. The topic on the table is UFOs not from outer space, but on alternate realities. But first, I want to put this on the table. We have this post in our forums at forum.theparacast.com from one of our posters, Wade. And he's referring to a book that you wrote some time ago called The Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts. Has the cipher changed? Do you still use it to predict the next sighting for yourself? Tell us.
Well, as of the mid-1990s, when the first edition of said book was published, I thought that once my book was out there, assuming that it got a wide circulation, and it has, it's in the tens of thousands, that the cipher would change. Thus far, it has not. What has happened is the use of what I call the funny names, the strange names in abduction or contact cases has diminished. So the number of cases that one can analyze using that particular cipher have become less. Now, whether there is a new cipher that I don't know anything about, I don't know. I do know that if I get something in the way of a word, a name, a planetary supposed origin, whatever, that I can predict the next major sighting. But I had hoped with those books, which are now Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts and Secret Rituals of the Men in Black, both of which are available in free PDFs now. So, I mean, there are still hard copy editions, but I don't get any royalties on them because the publisher of the original edition is long gone, and the publisher of the second edition never paid me any royalties. So I put them up as PDFs unscribed, and one is welcome to read them intact. And my hope was, when I wrote them, that other people would use the cipher, apply it in the ways that I suggested, and do their own predicting and be at locations. Mobility with me is more of a task because I don't drive, among other things, which you're a native New Yorker, so that might not seem totally strange to you, but to the vast majority of Americans, that is strange. And, that's my particular weirdness.
Well, let me tell you this. My son knows how to drive, but he lives in Madrid where there's plenty of public transportation, so he doesn't own a car and he doesn't drive. Of course, also, cars and gas are quite expensive in Spain.
Yeah, well, there you go. And my youngest son, who is an adult and still lives at home, walks to work. It makes things more difficult. It basically, and also, I'm not wealthy, so I was once, but that was 4 marriages ago, among other things. So unless people invite me somewhere or for an occasion and sponsor me, I don't go. I mean, it's as simple as that. I think the National UFO Conference reunion was the only event that I paid my own way to in recent years. And yet I've been all over the world because people will sponsor me to come and spend a week bringing them up to speed on all of these things.
I'd like to return to this because you asked me about the name, the Paracast, and our approach to the UFO mystery. One of the things we've maintained on the Paracast over the years is that people shouldn't just look to the skies for the solution to the UFO mystery. And we've probably run more shows with those alternative theories than most radio shows out there. And of course, this is a commercial radio show which is carried on terrestrial radio in addition, of course, to being heard online. So in that particular category, commercial radio show, we're probably almost alone in talking about UFOs with other possible theories. That kind of makes us outliers.
Well, there are a few others, at least, that will entertain it, and one or two that I can think of that also suggest that, and maybe go further than you and are more on the same page as I am, thinking that maybe the ETH should be the ETS, the extraterrestrial speculation, because it's really not a hypothesis. It's not in the traditional dictionary sense of that term.
Again, the exception is the fact that we are on commercial radio, heard on normal radio stations. There are podcasts, of course, that are exceptions. I think one that comes to mind, perhaps the best one, is the one that's hosted by Greg Bishop.
Yeah, but I would imagine that the stuff, when people say, well, people don't have the same interest in UFOs that they had 20 years ago, I say, pardon me? Actually, although the level of the information is lamentable, what this has done is gone mainstream culture. All you have to do is turn on any number of cable channels on TV, which reach many millions of people, and they churn out stuff. I mean, I've been on some of these programs, and they repeat them and repeat them and repeat them, and then they, add to them what Ancient Aliens and the like have been on, and they're on channels that have that sort of pseudo stamp of authenticity, history, Smithsonian, whatever. But it's always ETH. Nothing else is ever discussed. And it's almost ETH to the exclusion of natural phenomena. So it's really, it borders on a belief system rather than a hypothesis of any sort. And that's what gets I don't imagine that you reach as many people as that. And maybe you do. If you do, more power to you. But the general thing, even on radio, is ETH oriented with I'll talk, we'll call them the middle of the night shows for truckers. And I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about. But since I don't want to be excluded from their universe, I will decline to mention them in specific. But I do think that they muddy the waters. However, they're muddying the waters for the masses, just as there is serious paranormal research into apparitions. And I don't mean of the Virgin Mary, I mean of the deceased, but not much. And what has happened is that research has been reduced to a group of plumbers in New Jersey who go out with various measuring, impressive-looking pocket tools and night vision goggles. And every time they see or hear anything, they go, "Whoa, wow!" Like, that's not research. That's strictly entertainment and is on the same level as reality television.
Well, we've reached the point now with reality television where the king of reality TV may be president of the United States.
That may very well be the case. And it may say something about the times we lived in. I think, what was the line from Gladiator? Are you not entertained?
This kind of reminds me of something, and I think a lot of you will have empathy with this. I had what we call a crazy uncle when I was a kid. I had Uncle George. That was his real name. Uncle George was a retired lieutenant in the New York City Police Department. He would tell some pretty wacky stories, and today they would not be politically correct. But they would arrest juvenile delinquents or suspected juvenile delinquents, take them to someplace in the basement in the police station, and knock some sense into them. I don't know if we could believe this. It was outrageous. And now the crazy uncle is a multi-billionaire, and he tells crazy stories, and people listen to him. In fact, we're doing this show right now, even though the show won't be heard for a few days, opposite a certain debate in which the crazy uncle is featured. So it's a pretty crazy world out there. But before we get too crazy, let me tell you, this is a special appearance by Alan Greenfield on our show. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's Lemke soft.com. Lemkesoft.com. Lemkesoft.com.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't take on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
There's one major factor affecting the health of millions, and most people are completely unaware. Acid levels. Soda, meat, dairy, caffeine, and sugar can all lead to elevated acid levels in the body. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops get the body's pH levels back in perfect balance. It's a holistic, natural, and powerful approach that will give you greater health, vitality, and zest for life. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops. Visit alkavision.com. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sam Nussbaum with the Anthem Foundation. Premature birth is the leading cause of death of babies and disabilities for children. That's why we support the March of Dimes to help mothers have full-term pregnancies and healthy babies. Join us in supporting cutting-edge research, treatment, and outreach to help moms during their pregnancy and give every baby a healthy start in life. Learn how you can help at marchofdimes.org.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
This is Kurt Sotheby, author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
We continue our discussion with Alan Greenfield. We've talked about UFOs and the curious phenomenon of them winking in and out. Maybe they are from other realities. Maybe they are from inside the caves in our own reality. Maybe from under the sea. How do we prove it, man?
Well, you have to start by putting it in a different context. First of all, I think the notion of a hollow earth as such is, there is acceptable scientific proof, a term that I don't use lightly, that the earth is in fact not hollow, and that we pretty well, there are lots of things that we don't know specifically about the inside of the earth, but we do know that the mass of the earth is suggests a molten core and a mantle around it and a thin layer upon which we grovel and call ourselves human beings on the surface, and then an atmosphere to protect us from the cosmic rays and rays of the sun. That is settled science. What is not settled science is it possible that when you go north beyond the North Pole, at a certain altitude, that you may penetrate one of these alternate realities and mistake it for the inner earth? Is it possible that there are certain caves that are portals and that people, I mean, this is not new stuff. This is Ray Palmer's version of the Shaver mystery. Palmer did not believe that Shaver was correct, that these were beings from the interior of the earth, but he believed that Shaver was telling the truth as he understood it. The difference being that Palmer thought that there was an interpenetration of another reality. Similarly, there is, other than the Marianas Trench, we pretty well know the oceans of the Earth. We don't know them as well as we should. We know more about the moon than we know about the deepest bottoms of the ocean. But I think that other than civilizations that once existed on shorelines that various climate change effects have swallowed up, and that are indeed underwater, and I cover that a lot on my Facebook blog, there isn't some mysterious living civilization under the sea. That would be more unlikely, I think, than a past civilization on Mars that, when the atmosphere thinned out, moved underneath, and that still exists there. I don't believe that is true, but I think it is possible. It's within the realm of possibility. I don't think we have any kind of Aquaman universe under the ocean, which is yet another reason why I don't believe in Superman.
And you certainly don't believe in a Fortress of Solitude or in Wonder Woman.
Not in this reality, no.
There you go. Maybe in another reality, such things exist. Okay, so for a few years, Ray Palmer continued to talk about holes at the poles, and we all assumed he was talking about physical holes at the poles. He then seems to change his tune and say that no, he's talking about holes at the poles in the astral, perhaps his simplified way of talking about an alternate reality.
Within quantum physics, going back to the 1920s, mostly mathematical terms, not virtual terms, not actual terms, to use their type of language. So those of us in ufology struggling along, Ray Palmer included, we really had to draw on the language of the occult or the language of traditional storytelling to come up with terms for it. The astral. What is the astral? Well, that's a term without a specific meaning. It's used frequently, and even parapsychologists will use it, but usually in quotes. But what it's referring to is real enough. It's the notion of a reality that is, again, one of those old terms that has no real meaning, in a different vibrational level than our everyday universe. Consensus reality, as Carlos Castaneda, his imaginary teacher, told him. Consensus reality is very powerful. First of all, we reinforce it with each other all the time. From birth to death, we are reinforcing that, while the vast majority of human beings also hold supernatural beliefs in things that they can't see or know, and they call it faith, which is actually a perversion of the term faith, which originally means fidelity. Fides, faith. It's a sort of an equivalent to loyalty rather than belief as we commonly understand it now. Science isn't about belief, it's about facts and being able to establish a fact by the repeatable experiment. And many experiments in quantum physics have shown that there is a great likelihood that alternate realities with alternate timelines, and maybe even no timeline at all, exist. That being the case, I think that the notion of alternate realities, although the term may be lame and inadequate, is a very plausible one that has strong scientific backing, as opposed to the so-called extraterrestrial hypothesis, and to any belief system whatsoever, because belief systems have become just that. They are a matter of belief. I also have a kind of sociological interest in the fact that if you go back to the first flying saucer case, that being defined as the case where the term emerged from, not the actual first case, the Kenneth Arnold case, June 24th, 1947. Already in 1947, that false dichotomy was being foisted on people's consciousness, on the consensus reality. Either these are natural phenomena that are being misunderstood, and I'm sure there are many, many cases of that, although I don't think the percentages that you hear about are anything like correct. You know, they say 95% natural phenomena, 5% unknown. That's baloney. It's just not factoring in the number of cases or the number of good cases. I think it's more like 50-50, really. And unknown may be a more difficult thing to define than simply leaving it as a big question mark. In any case, we immediately went to their little green men from Mars, that was the term, or possibly Venus. At that time, we didn't know a great deal about Venus. They would have to be the molten men if they were from Venus, as we know now, but I'm not even sure if Velikovsky had any correctness, whether Venus is actually a planet as such. But that's a totally, off-point question. So we'll leave that as saying we immediately heard about the possibility we were being visited from Mars, something that goes back to H.G. Wells and the erroneous translation of channels to canals from early astronomical observations through the distorting atmosphere of the Earth, for which we should all be grateful.
Now, let me remind you that no less than UFO pioneer Major Donald Kehoe told us, and this happened the day before you and I went to NICAP and they told me to leave. He early on believed in the Martian canals, and that might indicate possible intelligent life on Mars. He wrote about that in his early books. Curious thing is that the theory for getting the local planets that he voiced about UFOs from outer space mirrors the theory that's being expressed today by most people in the UFO field with hardly any change. Before we go on, let me introduce you once again to the Paracast Plus. I know you've heard about it. I know a lot of you have been thinking about joining, but want to know more, want to think about it. Well, we offer the ad-free version of this show where we take out 41 minutes of network ads. We also offer the After the Paracast podcast. We've just introduced a video channel with our first magnificent video from Chris O'Brien. We have show transcripts. We're getting more of those in the next few days. A lot coming in the Paracast Plus. A modest monthly, annual, 5-year, or annual subscription rate gets you to be a part of the action. Go to plus.theparacast.com to learn more, plus.theparacast.com. Our guest this week is Alan Greenfield. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
This is a healthcare alert from the Pain Relief Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You don't have to suffer any longer. You can immediately qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you by calling our 24/7 Pain Relief Hotline at 866-389-0620. Delivery is free and all paperwork is handled for you. If you are on Medicare and have knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain, don't wait. You can qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost by calling our 24/7 pain hotline now at 866-389-0620. Our representatives are standing by 24/7 to take your call and rush you your pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and all paperwork is handled for you. Just call 866-389-0620. That's 866-389-0620. Again, 866-389-0620.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Subject on the table with our guest Alan Greenfield is about UFOs and possible alternate realities. So let's put this on the table. We have UFOs winking in and out, strange creatures winking in and out. So is there some kind of mechanism by which we can go from this reality to that reality and back again? Or do we go back to that book, The Incomplete Enchanter?
Well, the book The Incomplete Enchanter had a method, but it was... The interesting thing about DeCamp and Pratt, I think they're both deceased now. I know Pratt is, and I would assume DeCamp is. But it seems very strange in a science fiction / science fantasy book and series of books. Actually, all of the Harold Shea stories were published in the pulp science fiction magazines first and then collected. There's a disclaimer. An odd disclaimer that we speak of things, I quote from one of the ancient Romans, Virgil maybe, we speak of things that don't exist and never have existed and don't merit thinking that they have any existence. Why go through that disclaimer? I've never seen that in, I think, any other science fiction or science fantasy book. I mean, Game of Thrones assumes that you know that that's not the real world and it's not a real world. And that it's not necessary to say anything more than that it be in the fiction category. Not since the 19th century has it been customary for fiction to be published as nonfiction. It caused much mischief in things like Bulwer-Lytton's Rosicrucian book and the book about the Vril, the Power of the Coming Race, which not only was taken up by the Nazis, but is now prized by the neo-Nazis, as you can find very easily on the internet if you care to do so. Well, I tried walking into a mirror, and then I tried walking into a shower stall. I tried all kinds of things, but I was, like 12 or 13 when I read the book. So the point is that the idea in and of itself doesn't produce any way to do it. The authors imagined a formula of logic that would essentially make logic illogical. And if they did that focusing on a particular fictional, traditional book, let's say the Elder Edda, which is one of those that they used to transform themselves into the world of Norse mythology, which was my introduction to Norse mythology, by the way, and was enough for me to take a considerable interest in it, even though in most books in those days that was supplementary. I'm not sure if I can pronounce it, but it was a syllogismobile that relied on syllogisms to propel you into an alternate reality. You can kind of get the same effect from LSD, not recommended, or from brainwave synchronizers, recommended with caution. But nevertheless, that doesn't take you anywhere. It just allows you to see things from a different perspective than ordinary everyday reality. And once you've done that, that's all you can do with it. And the tendency is to keep repeating the experience, which is a failure. It's sort of being stuck. It's a peril of the path, as we say in metaphysical circles. But if we look at the notion of M-brain or multiple worlds theories in physics, we will find people who are eminent physicists who propose at least theoretical ways of penetrating other realities. In fact, there's an argument, I think it was made by Michio Kaku, a well-known scientist, albeit one of those who appears on television a lot, which is a little suspect to me. Maybe that's hypocritical on my part, being the, can I say media whore on the radio? I guess I just did.
Yes, you can. Yes, you did. And no, they will not stop us.
Oh, that's good, because, I'm unabashed. I like to do radio and television and podcasts and stuff. But not without reason, and I don't think people like Michio Kaku, or for that matter, the late Carl Sagan, were doing it just for the kick of it. But Michio Kaku has proposed that the human race, if it means to survive the inevitable end of this universe, needs to find a way to penetrate into other universes, and proposes a way that only in the far future would our technology allow us to do, maybe. Well, those of us who are in the occult community and who have, for a long time, not equating it at all, for centuries, literally not equating it at all with what we're discussing now, have been opening portals to otherwhere, for lack of a specific term, and either evoking or invoking or going to other ethers, other realms, other dimensions, other orders of reality. And that is kind of standard practice. What allows that to happen is a series of stylized rituals done in a specific context, much of it dating to the astrologer royal of Queen Elizabeth I, John Dee, but probably dating far, far earlier than that to the ancient Dionysian, Eleusinian mysteries, Egyptian mysteries, and so forth, are various means by which one can open portals to these other places, sometimes to specific other places. This is something that can be replicated, something that requires some years of study to be able to do. But once you have the ability to do it, if done properly, you can take someone who is skeptical of it, who, and I've done this, who have no knowledge.
I was going to ask you that. Go ahead, please.
Who have no knowledge in advance of it. And you do tell them, what you're doing, but you don't tell them what results to expect. And go through the ritual, propel them into this universe and ask them what they saw. And it will resemble the standard model of what people see in this given place, in this given time, to a degree that approaches certainty that they're talking about the same thing. And of course, there are people who have written accounts of it. I'm not as fond of the late Aleister Crowley as I once was, for a variety of reasons, including all of the nonsense that has been done in his name. But he did write a book called The Vision and the Voice, which narrates a series of events involving him and one of his close associates in North Africa on specific dates at specific times, and which I use making sure that the people that I am propelling voluntarily into these other specific realities haven't read and don't really know about and are not particularly enamored of mysticism or magic or Aleister Crowley at all.
So we'll continue our discussion about other realities, and some people believe that I should go to that other reality and stay there. We have Gene Steinberg. We have Alan Greenfield. Chris O'Brien's on special assignment. You're in
the Paracast.
If you're fascinated by UFOs, ancient aliens, archaeological mysteries, ghost hunting, Atlantis, and any other paranormal topic as we are, be sure to check out apmagazine.info each month. Since 1985, it has presented the latest research by top researchers like Andrew Collins, Brad Steiger, and many others, and contains interviews with such leading personalities as Jacques Vallée. Click on one of their banners and check out apmagazine.info. As you know, neighbors, web hosting can be pretty cheap, but not all hosting is the same. DreamHost wins Best of Awards year after year. You get unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, and even the low-cost plans put your sites on high-performance SSDs. Want to know more about what DreamHost has to offer? Go to technightowl.com/host. Once again, that's technightowl.com/host.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
It's about time something new came along for better selling and buying online, and I found it. It's buysellmakeoffer.com, a brand new company that's the newest and best way to sell products online. You can even use Skype or video to sell your car, home, any product. You get 30 days free, packages starting from only $7.95, and buysellmakeoffer.com never charges item fees ever. Just go sign up, then load your stuff to sell. I love this site, buysellmakeoffer.com. Got it? Buysellmakeoffer.com. Better selling, better buying.
Hi there, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy, and we're looking in this time of terrible financial crash, terrible meltdown of the medical system. We're looking to pay people obscene amounts of money if you become a student of our business at Youngevity. We will help you actually take care of people better than the medical system has. Think about it. We spend more money in America for healthcare than all the other 218 nations of the world put together, and they can't even solve weight loss problems. I mean, the medical system can have a total mental brain fart, and if you do this, you will be able to save an enormous amount of people from being overweight, being obese. They don't even know what causes obesity. Believe me, we know what causes obesity. In the medical system, they think it's from eating too much. It's not from eating too much. It's actually a mineral deficiency. Do you solve a iron deficiency anemia with a bone marrow transplant? That's what they think. Do you solve a mineral deficiency that causes obesity with a gastric bypass? That's dumber than a stump. Contact us at gcnminerals.com. Learn how to lose weight, look good, and save yourselves a gob of money.
By now you know that wireless technology like cell phones do in fact pose dangers to the health and privacy of everyone. Blockit Pocket's wide range of products are unmatched in providing the protection you deserve. No scare tactics, just common sense. BlockitPocket.com offers quality American-made options to alleviate and eliminate these invisible dangers. Learn more at BlockitPocket.com or call 888-315-9618. BlockitPocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Chris O'Brien is on special assignment. We're joined this week by Alan Greenfield, an old friend of mine. We got started in the UFO and paranormal game back in the 1960s. Has it been that long? We've been focusing quite heavily on the subject of alternate realities. So I pose a question to my friend, Mr. Greenfield, and it is this. So you don't have a car, you don't drive. When you want to go somewhere, someone has to send you the plane ticket or the train ticket or the bus ticket to be able to get there. So have you ever traveled to another reality, Alan Greenfield?
Well, I can tell you this. I once took, on my lawyer's advice, took my then only, now eldest son, Alex, on a 72-hour Greyhound trip from Tucson to Atlanta. And if that wasn't a trip to another reality, I don't know what is. That was truly bizarre. But I think of myself as a facilitator in the spirit of free illuminism rather than a traveler myself. I have done enough traveling to satisfy myself that it can be done. But having done that, I'll give you the example of the first time I did a controlled group working. This was in the late 1980s, early 1990s. And at that time, I was involved with an organization that will remain nameless, and I was the master of their local lodge, one of those secret societies that isn't very secret and isn't very social. But what I did was we had a rather nice lodge space, which had two doors, both of which had locks on them. I had a reliable tiler of my lodge, that is the equivalent of a guard for those people who aren't familiar with Masonic and crypto-Masonic terminology. And I had all the right equipment for this particular type of translation, if we can call it that, or transport or whatever. And I had a group of people that were picked largely because they had no previous knowledge of these particular workings and had no particular opinion as to what they expected to happen. I did a fairly elaborate opening, and for 30 weeks, once a week, with an interruption for, I think, the holidays season. So it took more like 40 weeks to do it. But on 30 occasions, we would lock the doors. I would do the invocation and stand by one of the doors, locked. My tiler would stand by the other door, locked. And the person propelled into this other reality, the scryer, would go into this reality. There was one occasion actually where we handed a physical object to a person who was in some kind of trouble. Actually, it was a sword, in difficulty in this alternate reality. Things can go wrong. There is a certain amount of risk, although I limit that when I'm dealing with other people, just for ethical reasons. And afterwards, I would close the portal, which is something I always tell people who get involved with this: learn banishing and exorcism and closings before you learn anything else. Become consummately good at that. Like a soldier who can field strip an M16 and put it back together in the dark. You need to be able to do that if you're scared to death, if you're worried, if you're distracted, if you're in a altered mental state of that there were no drugs or alcohol or anything else other than ritual involved in this series of activities. Learn to close it. There's a portal in Pasadena that was opened in 1945 that some people who argue the modern UFO is different from older things argue that it's never been closed, and that was the origin of the UFOs, because they didn't close the portal. That was done by a scientist from Jet Propulsion Laboratory who was also an occultist and blew himself up. Nothing that dramatic happened. We had a lot of dramatic things happen, but I won't give you the side things. They're distracting. The major thing is I did have Crowley's account of his experience in the same, they're called ethers, the 30 Enochian ethers. So I had his standard accounts from the vision and the voice. Was careful that no one in the room had any experience of that or anything, closely resembling that. And I would have them tell what their experience was to the group of people who were there. And then I would read the account from the vision and the voice, which dates from, I forget exactly, but circa 1910. And the accounts were so similar that there could be very, very little doubt that what this person who had no previous experience or reading in that area had was essentially the same thing, the same place, the same universe as the one that Crowley had written about, or his scribe had written about to his dictation so many years before, 75 years or so before. I think that constitutes, given that there was no available exit from the room, that the doors were being monitored, that the people were rather closely filtered so that we were not dealing with people who had memorized these things or even simply read them somewhere in their past and sort of unconsciously absorbed them so that they could imagine that they were going to these places. And it was the same experience. It was published in the little hard copy newsletter that we all did back in the day. And I have really never forgotten that one, because while I have repeated this experiment since with the same success, nevertheless, the first time you do anything significant, it leaves a very, very strong impression. I might add that I did not conduct this until I had achieved a considerable level of expertise in this area, or I wouldn't have even remotely attempted it with other people. And I would not urge people to run out, buy the vision and the voice, which I have no stake in and which I think is probably out of copyright anyway. So anybody, whatever, it's available. But this is not something to do lightly. But it nevertheless is something that, if we put it into broader practice, perhaps could be applied specifically to some of the quote, planets, unquote, that UFO abductees and contactees profess to have gone to or been in touch with.
We'll continue that discussion in our next segment. We'll talk about abductions before maybe we're abducted. No, set that aside. We have Alan Greenfield, Chris O'Brien's on special assignment. I'm Gene Steinberg, and you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us and advertise at GCNlive.com. And an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise at GCNlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
Did you know that home break-ins increase more than 100% during the holidays? It takes just 10 seconds for an intruder to kick in your door. But police response to a home alarm system is more than 20 minutes. And intruders are in and out of your home in 5 minutes. Thieves know that you're not home and have presents inside just waiting to be taken. And if you are home, how safe will you feel with an intruder lurking inside with your family? That's why police across the country are recommending you use door armor. Proven to withstand the force of a battering ram, door armor keeps intruders out. It's easy to install and barely visible, and your door armor is guaranteed for life. Go to invasionstopper.com for a very special buy one, get one at half off deal. These savings are for a limited time and only available to GCN listeners. Protect your valuables and loved ones this holiday season. Go to invasionstopper.com now. That's invasionstopper.com.
Hey guys, Pat Matthews here to tell you all about the newest and best way to sell your products online. It's buysellmakeoffer.com, a brand new site to sell your stuff online. Your old golf clubs, sports equipment, tools, and yes, even your car. Forget about the other guys. Buysellmakeoffer.com will never charge you item fees. Go to the website now and sign up so that you can soon load all your stuff up to sell. This is not an auction site. Just use our resources along with Skype and videos to sell your items quickly and with no fees. Go right now to user-friendly buysellmakeoffer.com, where the first 30 days are on us.
As your body ages, there's a 10% decline in your ability to repair each passing decade after the age 28. By age 40, your ability to repair from demanding manual labor, exercise, or a stressful desk job has declined by 12%. By using One World Whey, you supercharge your body's ability to repair and eliminate inflammation. Our unique frequency-encoded whey protein, coupled with our high-quality whey, improves your cell's ability to make protein, which is to say, repair itself.
My name is Jonathan Wright, and I'm 40 years old. I recently went from a desk job to a manual labor job. Normally, I'm worn out. With energy-enhanced One World Whey, I now recover so quickly that I can perform very hard work all day long. I use energy-enhanced One World Whey for breakfast and lunch, and I experience less hunger throughout the day. I have a 30% increase in energy, and I just feel better. I plan to make energy-enhanced One World Whey a permanent part of my lifestyle.
Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworld, WHEY.com.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't take on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gray Alien Report, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
We continue with my old friend Alan Greenfield. How old a friend? Well, I've known him for what, 50 years or more?
More than half a century. And we've stayed young using that rejuvenation formula that we will not give out on the air.
Yes, but if we had that to advertise, we'd make a lot of money.
Yes, we would. Something to think about for the future.
In fact, a recent guest we had, a UFO abduction researcher, Dr. David Jacobs, well, his presence is contentious on the show. When we had him on, people like him, people don't care. Lots of people hate it. It really started a controversy. In fact, we had more hate messages in our forums than we've seen there for many years. So we know that abductions, it's a contentious, controversial subject. Since you raised the issue with abductions, are the abductees going somewhere, or is it all happening in their heads?
Well, first of all, it's sort of like near-death experiences. Now that near-death experiences are fairly widely known, it's possible that the consensus reality common to people, at least in our society, is broad enough that some of the phenomena associated with near-death experiences could be, so to speak, programmed into people, and people who have had near-death experiences might imagine that they were having the same experience.
Now, I have to tell you, we had a guest editorial by a famous paranormal blogger known as Red Pill Junkie. And he wrote a piece about the possible connection between near-death experiences and UFO abductions. It is territory we've also mined on the show.
But let me say this about the near-death experiences. Once you start to do a historical research, once again, you will find that near-death experiences, before they were well known, before it became a fairly widely known phenomenon, and it's still not, on the tip of the tongue of everybody, and it isn't universally believed in or any of that. Nevertheless, it is fairly widely known now, and those people who are professional skeptics are going to say, well, the previous case has influenced it, which begs the question, well, what about the first case? There is no first case. They go back to ancient times, and I've published cases that have the same characteristics that are ancient. But it's not what was expected. I go back far enough myself that I can remember that I follow Reform Judaism, which is not big on the afterlife. I think maybe because the Jews came out of Egyptian servitude in a society that was obsessed with death and the afterlife, and that was sort of the supreme interest of Egyptian civilization, so much so that I think the Jews tended to relegate the afterlife to being either a non-thing or something that you didn't want to emphasize. The present existence is the one that was important. I think there's merit in the notion of the here and now is what we should be living, and not living for pie in the sky when we die by and by. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't look into, as scientific illuminists, we should not look into what evidence there is, if any, for afterlife experiences, whether it be near-death experiences or apparitions or whatever. Those things are worthy of study, and there is an interesting case to be made, and that is within my purview, and I do see similarities between that and abduction experiences. However, we have cases with the same characteristics going back as far as we care to go back, at least as far as literate society goes back. That's the only records we could have. So it is doubtful that it's the influence of the famous cases of that sort that are influencing people to experience them now. The same is true with abduction cases. Okay, you could say that relative latecomers are simply repeating the stories, whether deliberately or from their imagination or whatever. But those of us who've been around when ufology was a very small circle of people, and interest in UFOs consisted of, public interest in UFOs consisted of interest in lights in the sky. Any kind of abduction experience was sort of laughed off or relegated to giant rock contacteeism, and was considered either to be a hoax or some kind of derangement of the senses. That being the case, there were not a huge number of people that had knowledge of the specifics of these cases when I started investigating them and when you started investigating them. I mean, I conducted investigations on site in a variety of cases in the 1960s and early 1970s. And at that time, there was no, I'm not even sure when the term abduction came along, but it sort of migrated from contactees to abductees. But with the exception of a few cases that are very well known of contactees who wrote books, there is a continuity of the phenomena that suggests that before it became public knowledge, people were independently having very similar experiences. Now, I will say this. If there is criticism of Dr. Jacobs, and I believe he's a psychologist, he uses hypnotherapy, does he not?
More or less, Dr. Jacobs is self-taught. He's a retired history professor. He watched Bud Hopkins in action, took a course or two, but that's about it.
Hypnosis, I first became aware of in reincarnation cases. It is characteristic of hypnosis that one has difficulty distinguishing between reality and fantasy, particularly if there are underpinnings like some kind of shock from the past, very particularly in terms of if there are suggestive questions like, did you enter the craft? You know, that's assuming that there is something to enter and assuming that it is a craft.
Just want to interrupt you for a moment here. This is an area where we had kind of a bone of contention with Dr. Jacobs. He maintains you can't lead a witness. You can't take them to an area where they're not going to go. You can't say what was on the other side of the door when they didn't see a door. You can't make them do that. According to him, the subject will simply say, there was no door. Now, I realize the normal practice here would be to ask them questions, but not lead them to make assumptions about something. So that's an area where Dr. Jacobs seems to part company with the traditional way this is done.
Well, my feeling is that he is incorrect on that.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. That was a point of contention we had when we interviewed him last.
I would have to look at his specific line of questioning to determine whether he was leading and also whether the person simply was objectifying a fantasy to. It is certainly true in hypnosis that there is an attempt made by the hypnotized person to be pleasing to the hypnotist. If you've ever watched a stage hypnotist cause people by suggestion to do embarrassing things through post-hypnotic suggestion, you know that they're trying to please the hypnotist, not themselves. And the net effect is to do something humiliating for the amusement of the audience, which I find contemptible, not funny. I have used hypnosis for purposes similar to this, but I do it with a grain of salt.
In our final segment of the show, we'll ask you about your hypnosis, about your experiences. I am also going to ask you whether you have taken any courses in terms of hypnotherapy or any kind of course with regard to hypnosis. And as you can see, Alan Greenfield has a wide range of subjects to talk about. We're only scratching the surface here. It's been several years since we've had him on the show, but we've got to get him on again real soon. All right? By the way, next week we'll be featuring Dr. Kirby Surprise to talk about synchronicity. Chris O'Brien's on special assignment. I'm Gene Steinberg. He's Alan Greenfield. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Ossick with Famous Footwear. Did you know that premature birth is the #1 killer of babies? That's why we support the March of Dimes in the fight against premature birth. Join us in supporting cutting-edge research, treatment programs, and outreach to help moms have full-term pregnancies and healthy babies. Learn how you can help save babies' lives at marchofdimes.org.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks, all on the nation's best 4G LTE network? Introducing Pix Wireless. Bring your phone and other qualifying devices to Pix and to choose a plan starting at only $14 a month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-267-2056 or pixwireless.com. Spelled P-I-X, wireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
Hello?
Congratulations.
For what?
For losing all that weight. How'd you do it so fast?
ASAP.
ASAP what? What's that mean?
Are you ready to get as skinny as possible, as soon as possible, as simple as possible, and as sexy as possible?
I'm listening.
Then get with the ASAP program. It's real and it works. No smooth talk, no slick advertising, and no exaggerated claims of success.
I've got to know more.
Welcome to ASAP, as slim as possible. Whether you have 10, 20, or 50 pounds to lose, ASAP is your weight loss answer. ASAP targets the abnormal fat reserves and makes them available to be burned as fuel and contains no caffeine or hormones. Order ASAP at wholesale prices or join the team to share the business with others. Visit GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Lose weight and look great with ASAP, as slim as possible.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Hi, this is James Fox from Chasing UFOs. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So I was going to ask Alan Greenfield before we broke and before he continued with his description of his hypnotic sessions. Have you taken training as a hypnotist? Are you self-taught? What?
Well, I don't do hypnosis as a matter of course, but yes, I have had training in the past in that area. That's not my area of specialization. My special interests are in a comparative religion, and the other things that I do out of long interest in them. You know, if you want credentials, my credentials are in those areas. I have some kind of certification in hypnotism, but it dates from the 1970s, and I don't do it very much, but I do understand the process. And I know that in reincarnation cases, for example, hypnotic cases, I find going all the way back to the Bridie Murphy case, which was the very, very popular case in the 1950s and led my father in his inimitable way to refer to my mother thereafter as Maggie Murphy. Don't ask me what the intent was there. There was some subliminal hostility, I think, involved. But in any case, the Bridie Murphy case is probably based on imagination, and I believe it was Robert Graves who did an analysis in Playboy of all places that showed the greater plausibility of it being an imaginary experience, although sincere, done under hypnosis rather than an actual past life. But I make a great distinction because I think reincarnation is a reality between the spontaneous, mostly early childhood cases that have been verified, of which there are thousands, and many of them documented by the late Dr. Ian Stevenson and his successors now at the University of Virginia, those cases done under hypnosis. They're possible, but it's also possible that they are invented in one way or another, regardless of the training of the hypnotists. The Betty and Barney Hill case, UFO case, was done by a psychiatrist who had been trained in hypnosis but used hypnosis, and I think there was a real experience in there, but I think there's also some dreamlike material that is suggestive of the hypnotic process. I'd rather deal with what people can recall without hypnosis than what is recalled under hypnosis. It would have been hard to have two people remembering the same thing, except that one of them talked in their sleep. So it is possible there was a transmigration of information that was fantasy there. Having said that, I tend to think that the Hill case was a legitimate abduction case.
Okay, by legitimate, do you mean that they were taken away by ETs or what?
Well, I don't think there are ETs, remember. So I think they had the kind of experience that in a previous era would have been called a mystical experience, a road to Damascus experience, an epiphany. The details of epiphanies will vary from person to person. That's why the great world religions all start out with epiphanies by individual people and then diverge in certain ways, but which have certain common denominators among them. In the 1890s, a Canadian psychiatrist, Dr. Buck, documented many cases throughout history in a book called Cosmic Consciousness, and that has been followed up on, although not comprehensively, since that time by people like Aldous Huxley and a variety of others. And I think that that is a genuine phenomenon. William James, of course, in the variety of religious experiences, focuses on that, and that is in my area of expertise, and it's something that has happened throughout history. You have an encounter with the what's it, and then you translate it into the terms of the culture and circumstances of your own life. Some people draw religious conclusions from it, some people draw political conclusions from it, and some people draw extraterrestrial conclusions from it. But just call it mystical experience, and you're getting closer to the truth as to what it is.
All right, but everybody still wants to believe it's ET.
Not everybody.
When I say everybody, the vast majority of people who look into UFOs believe ET.
Because that's what they're told by the so-called experts, repeatedly and with gusto. It blares out of the television. It came from books from pulp writers turned ufologists like our old friend, the sainted, late retired Major Kehoe. From the earliest days of the UFO mystery, that has been the paradigm that people have been presented with. So if that's all they're presented with, people are going to say, oh yeah, this is, I believe in life on other planets. That's your typical response from your typical guy on the streets of Philadelphia if you ask him about it. Or, I don't believe that there's life on other planets, so I don't believe there are any flying saucers. Those are not the only two possibilities. And those are the only two that are presented in mass media. So what we need to address is present some other alternatives and see where public consciousness goes. We're doing that right now.
Well, that's what this show is all about, to expand your horizons, to show the listeners that not everything